What is up, everybody? Welcome once again to my YouTube channel, and today let's continue with some more F1 2019 career mode. Of course, this time around we are at the desert of Bahrain, of the Bahrain Grand Prix, and as you guys can see, we are still last in our development. Of course, we haven't gotten any upgrades besides the durability upgrade. We also got the discount on the aerodynamic side of things, and we are going to be working on that later on. In terms of the progress history, as you can see, none of the other teams have improved, which is great. And in terms of the standings, of course, they are just the results of the previous Grand Prix, where the Mercedes got a 1 to finish. Hamilton leads the championship with 25 points. So with that, let's get ourselves started with the practice session for the Bahrain Grand Prix.
Today, Formula One opens up at the Bahrain International Circuit. It looks as if we're here just in time, as the practice session will get underway shortly.
Well, in terms of our practice, it didn't go the smoothest in terms of what I believe we can achieve. We did get purple in most of the practice programs. We also got the full 25 points for the team objectives, but it really worries me that we weren't able to get the purple rating in the qualifying pace program. This is not a track where I'm the most comfortable at, so I've historically struggled around this track, and the Williams lack of downforce doesn't really help, so hopefully we can do the best of it as we move on to the qualifying session.
Bahrain qualifying is nearly upon us, and the drivers look as if they're all geared up to go. I expect we'll be getting underway very shortly.
Okay, so qualifying is upon us, and we are just getting to the last couple corners in the first flying lap attempt. As you can see, got a bit wide and trying to put traction down, not exactly the smoothest exit, and we got a 131.0, very bad lap, I would say. We got smashed by Albon even. Verstappen takes the lead at this point, as Charles Leclerc beats him on the mediums as well with the 129 lap, so very nice lap for the Ferrari driver on the mediums to boot. And we're going to get ourselves to the last of our attempts. We're trying desperately to improve, and we're 2 tenths down coming into the last corner, 2 tenths up at the exit of it. Nonetheless, we still don't go beyond P20, so actually a disappointing result, but yeah, I really do struggle at this track. As you can see, out of qualifying 1 it is Vettel, but on pole, but it doesn't really matter. We have Q2 and Q3 left to do, but we do get knocked out alongside our teammate. Russell beats us by half a second. Then we have Weber in 17th and Grosjean in 16th. So that's how much we struggled here today. So yeah, those aren't good signs for the race. Nonetheless, let's get on with the Bahrain Grand Prix. Let's see how it goes.
The curtain rises once more then on the desert stage of Sakir as the players take their places for the opening act. Will they enthrall us like they did in 2014 with that titanic battle between Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton? Well, we'll find out shortly as we get underway here in Bahrain. We go racing today around 3.36 miles of the magnificent Bahrain International Circuit, with 15 corners and 2 good passing opportunities into turns 1 and 4. Keep an eye out for drivers locking the front left tyre into the tricky braking zone of turn 10. And it's an absolute pleasure to be joined once again by Anthony Davidson. Let's talk briefly about Lando Norris. They're still relatively new to a sport which does have a high learning curve and, of course, little tolerance for mistakes.
And this is something that has ended the career of many a young driver, as that leap up to Formula One proves to be too much. But luckily in this case, I'd say they're doing a good, solid job, and the risk the team took in signing them is definitely starting to pay off.
Valtteri Bottas lines up on pole position. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. And Lewis Hamilton completes the front row. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Vettel, Verstappen, Charles Leclerc and Gasly, Magnussen, Norris, Sainz and Daniel Ricciardo, Albon, Raikkonen, Devon Butler and Perez, Hülkenberg, Grosjean, Lucas Faber and Lance Stroll, Russell and the rookie. And with preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track.
Now that we've got some points on the board, let's continue this form and aim for another top 10 finish.
Well, we'll definitely try to do that one, as we're going to get completed through our formation lap. But yeah, we're going to try to get something out of this, but hopefully the race pace is better, because through qualifying we weren't quick at all. Letting go of the throttle to cool down the engine. You can see 97 degrees Celsius at this point, down to 96, just waiting for the autopilot to kick in. I really do want the engine to be as cool as possible, because of course very high temperatures here at Bahrain, and we're going to get lined up on our spot rather soon. But yeah, hopefully we have a good start and then good race pace, because otherwise we don't have many possibilities of getting a points paying race. So, lined up on our grid slots, there we have it. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights. Lights out, and away we go for the Bahrain Grand Prix. Not the greatest start of Leclerc. Good start from one of the racing points. I do believe that was Sergio Perez, as there is a bit of scrambling. There's also a good start from a K-Mag, and we throw ourselves down the inside of some of our rivals. That is the Canadian, that is Lance Stroll, getting a bit slow out of turn number 2. We are going to get ourselves some argy-bargy there with Nico Hülkenberg, as he tries to shove us outside of the racing line, and we are going to get ourselves through the inside once again off turn number 4. We get ourselves on the inside of Perez, and we are now side by side with the number 3, that is Ricciardo. It actually backs down, and we make a move around the inside of turn number 6 and outside of 7. And into turn 8, we have climbed our way to P13, so very good start. You can see further back, it is also a bit of argy-bargy between the Williams of Russell and the Racing Point of Lance Stroll, and the Canadian does get the outside line into turn 10. He does have superior traction on those softer tires from Pirelli. Let's see, now it's going to be a drag race, and there is the advantage going for the number 18. Moving up to the front, it is, as you can see, getting quite held up. The Frenchman, Pierre Gasly, the number 10, is really held up behind a K-Mag. He does have the softest tires available, while the Dane has the hard tires on it, the white marked hard tires. He does get better traction coming out of the last corner. It's going to be a big of a drag race now into turn number 1. K-Mag isn't exactly backing down. They are still side by side, heading into the braking zone of turn 1. I could also see in the distance Vettel has taken the lead of the Grand Prix, so good stuff from the German as well, trying to get back to the Mercedes after that 1-2 for the Mercedes at Albert Park. And Gasly does complete the overtaking maneuver past K-Mag and moves up to P6. We also have Ricciardo having a cheeky look down our inside, trying to claim that P13 from us. We were able to hold it around the outside and maintain the position already lap 2, and you can see how much we are struggling to keep up with the Toro Rosso. So yeah, not really good signs at all. Also going wide there at the exit of turn number 7, as we jump further up the order. And as you can see, it is Leclerc in P4 for the time being. Sebastian Vettel has made a move for the lead. The Mercedes, though, have both started on the soft tires. The Ferraris have both started on the medium. So this is exactly very good, even for Leclerc, because he's not losing too much time to the soft wearing Mercedes. And even though it does look like he's not getting as good of a pace as his rivals, as he got himself the trio or the top 3, make a bit of a gap to the Monegasque, because we have a go from Sainz on the inside of K-Mag Sainz doesn't have the greatest exit because of course he was battling his rival, and it is Norris going to try to pick up some pieces, going to be 3 wide, headed into turn 1. Let's use the last of the light breakers. There's a bit of contact between Sainz and K-Mag and then into his teammate, so a bit of argy-bargy there from Sainz. He was on the middle of that sandwich there. He nonetheless manages to have a good defensive maneuver and maintains his position, as it's going to be now Raikkonen having a go at the young British driver, and he's going to try and claim the last of the points being positions. And sorry, no, he's actually battling for a P9, I believe. That's a P9 from Norris. Now he gets the inside of turn number 6 and now the outside of 7, and it's going to convert into the inside of turn 8 for Kimi Raikkonen. It's going to be now a bit of a drag race as we are on board with Albon, who might as well grab some popcorn because he's having prime seats in the house for that battle, as Norris gets the inside line into turns number 9 and 10, but then on the exit it is Kimi Raikkonen having the advantage and gets himself around the outside and gets the maneuver done. So Norris dropped a few places from that one, as we had also the Toro Rosso getting side by side there for a moment. I do believe Albon kept his position ahead of Butler, his teammate, so we're going back to on board with the young Brit. And let's see how it goes, because K-Mag isn't too far away from Sainz. Sainz isn't going to have DRS available to him, so he might have another scrap for what is P7, I believe, at the moment. There's also DRS wide open at the back of the youngster of the McLaren's car, as jumping from one youngster to the other, it is Lance Stroll getting himself around the outside of both, not Ferraris, but the Renaults. He already got past the Australian, and now he's getting himself a better exit than the German as well. What a beautiful maneuver there from the Canadian. Lance Stroll jumps past Nico Hülkenberg and Daniel Ricciardo. Ricciardo losing out 2 places into turn 1 there. We also had a look at Grosjean having down the inside of Russell into turn 1. Didn't quite convert into an overtaking opportunity, as it is in second last place, and it is Webber closing the pack at this point. Jumping back to the front, looks like Vettel has gotten jumped by both Mercedes. Probably their soft tires started to kick in. They still are quite strong this early on the race, but of course at about lap 10 I would say is when these Mercedes drivers will get rid of their tires, and I would say about lap 13 to 15 is when the Ferraris will do their pit stop. So the Ferraris will get undercut, but when the softs are really going downhill for the Mercedes, the mediums of the Ferraris are still good to go. So it's going to be an interesting dynamic that we are going to follow in the laps to come. So we have Kimi Raikkonen is going on board with the Finn once again, going to hunt down his fellow Scandinavian, the Dane in the Haas right in front of him. He's closing in, so he's quicker at the moment, at least in a straight line. Maybe setup, because they both have a Ferrari power unit, so maybe it's a setup thing, but no chances of overtaking just yet. As there on the background, I do believe there was a bit of argy-bargy between that is Perez, no, that is Stroll and ourselves. So Stroll is moving up some places. He got a bit of battling with Russell early on the Grand Prix, but now he's making use of his soft tires, and he already overtook both Renaults in one corner, and now he overtook ourselves. So he moves up to a P13, and sorry, no, P14 that is, since Perez has also done the same in previous opportunities. You can see Perez a bit far away from Stroll at the moment, as he occupies a position above his teammate, and he's going to be trying to hunt down the Toro Rossos. I do believe the Toro Rossos are the cars ahead of the Mexican. Yes, they are, as they approach turn 11. As you can see, the number 11 is going to try to close in on these Toro Rossos. Of course, they've been involved in a few scraps, so maybe they can get enough of battling going for Perez to be allowed to join the group. So we're going to jump to the Alfa Romeo of Weber, who's not having the greatest of days. He didn't get greatest of qualifyings, now he's in last place at this point, as there is Grosjean having a go at Russell. Grosjean does have a better car, but he has on harder tires, the hardest available, while Russell is on the mediums. They're going to get side by side out of the last corner, and Weber is going to get a better a better run. He's ahead by a nose length as he gets himself under braking into turn 1. There is the Frenchman getting himself back. What a maneuver there. And he actually does overtake Russell on the straight, and then he defends from Weber and he claims himself P17. Russell unfortunately has dropped down to P20. Weber moves up to 19th place as well as you go from these very good camera shots. As you can see the difference between all the cars, you can see on the DRS straight already the Mercedes and the Ferraris, while there's also a bit of a scrap between ourselves, and that is Nico Hülkenberg, I believe that is, going on board with the Australian, and big puffs of smoke coming from our front tire. So we are really struggling to be comfortable on this track with our car. And Nico Hülkenberg is going to get DRS on us into turn 11. Is he going to have a go? No, not yet. He's not going to have a go just yet. And we've also, maybe you can see in the distance, we've lost a bit of ground already to the racing point. So yeah, really struggling to keep up our pace as we jump to the beginning of lap number 7, and Leclerc is catching up a little bit to the trio ahead. He was losing ground in the opening laps, and this might be now that the softs are not really working for the Mercedes, but Vettel can't quite get the move on, so Leclerc is allowed to get himself closer. We have an attempt from K-Mac to have a go at Sainz. Sainz, brilliant maneuver around the outside to maintain is a P7, and he actually gets the DRS out of it, so the number 20 doesn't get a big chance to overtake into turn number 4. Sainz is going to maintain 7th place for the time being. As we're going to jump to further back, and it is Daniel Ricciardo trying to have a go at us. Hülkenberg has already overtaken us, so unfortunately we weren't able to hold one of the Renaults behind. Let's see if we can hold the other. So we get pretty wide coming out of turn number 6 and into the hairpin now, also taking a wider approach. We still maintain ourselves ahead of the Australian though, as the bottom 3 have already caught up. That's how slow we are. That's how much of a train we are building, because even the bottom 3 after their scrap have already been able to catch up to myself and the Australians Renault. So getting themselves down into turn 11, you can see we took a wider approach there, trying to keep up the speed, but that was too much speed. We have to cover the charge from Ricciardo. Weber isn't close enough to capitalize on that one as we go wide once again into turn number 13. Let's see how it goes. Looks like the Renault did get a better exit, and it is Ricciardo. Is he going to do one of those Ricciardo things? He's going to send it on the inside, and he does send it on the inside. Brilliant maneuver from him, very clean as well. And let's see how it goes. Let's see, will Ricciardo get the DRS? Yes, he does. We do not. Weber is going to get the DRS as well. We are vulnerable. We are going to try to get the slipstream of the Renault. Let's see how it goes. It might be 3 wide into turn number 1. Let's see, Weber is on the inside. We are in the middle. Usually the driver in the middle gets the move done, and we do get the move done. We maintain our position, and Ricciardo gets his exit compromised because of Weber. Ricciardo is also on the softs. There's also Russell getting a better exit out of the trio. We might get a 3 wide moment into turn 4, and yes we do, and there is a Weber sandwich now. He's in the middle this time around, and he does keep himself away with it, and he does overtake Ricciardo. Ricciardo is now under pressure from Russell. Let's see how it goes as we get ourselves downhill into turn number 8. The Williams is on the inside of the Renault. The Renault is still hanging it around the outside. Let's see how it goes. It's going to be a traction battle now up into turns 9 and 10, and Russell does it. George Russell gets himself up to a P17, I believe that is, or P16 rather, as Ricciardo drops 3 places while trying to overtake ourselves. So not exactly the best of moments from Ricciardo. So we jump back up to Norris, who in the meantime has been jumped by Albon. Both Toro Rossos are on the medium tires, and the young British driver and the trio ahead are all of them on the hard. So especially if they keep this battling up, both Butler and Perez might be able to join. You can see Perez is already very close to them. There's also on board with Butler, as he's getting himself a better exit and to do ahead of them, because of course they were battling. The Albon doesn't get DRS, and looks like the McLaren didn't get DRS either as we approach turn 1. 3 wide once again, and the youngster of the McLaren is able to keep his place. Let's see how it goes. Perez does get a better exit than Butler. Is going to get himself down the inside. He also has the softer tire. He's going to launch himself down the inside of turn 40. He actually forces Albon to give him some room. So pretty nice dive bomb there from Perez. He managed to stop the car on time, or to slow down the car on time, to still hold down the inside line, forcing Albon to get some space to him, just to bother his exit speed. Nonetheless, he wasn't really able to get the move done, so he jumped one of the Toro Rossos. He hasn't been able to jump the other one just yet. Jumping back to the front, we have Valtteri Bottas in P2 as we start lap 10. He won't be P2 for much longer. He's getting the RS and the slips, and he's going to get himself alongside his teammate Lewis Hamilton, and even before the braking zone of turn 1, he's already ahead. Not much ceremony on that transition of positions, which is fortunate for them, because of course that doesn't allow the Ferraris to get too close. Hamilton is going to have the RS now on the run down into turn 4, but he's too far behind. He's not really going to be a threat for the Finn this time around. Jumping further back on the pack, there's another round of the battle between Albon and Norris. Albon trying to make use of his softer tires around the inside of turn number 2, gets a bit pinched by the young British driver and is going to have a compromised exit. Let's see, it's Perez once again on the inside of the Toro Rosso. Is he going to have a go at the McLaren? No, he does not, but he does get side by side with Albon. Albon does get a better exit around the outside, can carry a better speed, and he's going to get himself around the outside of turn number 6. What a beautiful maneuver that converts into the inside of turn 7, and look at that, Albon maintains his position. I do believe that he's P11, but Albon, very good maneuver there to maintain his position. Great defensive maneuver, especially when compared to a driver as experienced as Perez. So very nicely done from the young driver of the Toro Rosso team. As we jump back ahead, and it is Vettel hunting down the Mercedes, as we have Hamilton who goes into the pits. Vettel looks like he's too far away, so I don't think he's going to trouble P1. He's going to close in because of the DRS and slipstream. Bottas doesn't have that, but I think he's too far away, as Hamilton is going to get a set of brand new hard tires that he is going to take to the end. So he's going to get the undercut not only on his teammates but on the Ferraris. The thing is, the Ferraris are still good on their tires for at least 2 more laps, so it's going to be risky, especially there are some cars on the hards in the top 10, and Hamilton might have a bit of a hard time overtaking them, as we also had, I believe that was Verstappen and now Perez coming into the pits, all of them for new sets of the hard tires that they are going to take to the end of the Grand Prix. As we jump once again to the top 3, and as you can see, it is Vettel pressurizing Bottas now. He's getting the slipstream and the RS all he wants, really, so he's really pressurizing the Finn. The Finn's tires are also in worse shape, I would say, because of course the soft tires degrade quicker than the mediums, and this is very good for the Ferraris because the Mercedes needed to pull a bit of a gap in order to be able to still come out of the pits ahead, because of course they are going to pit sooner. So I'm not sure the strategy worked out for the Ferrari drivers. Nonetheless, Bottas is getting himself to the pits, and of course Charles Leclerc is going to get the DRS and the slipstream into Vettel, but if he's going to try to get a move on, he needs a pretty big dive bomb, as of course Vettel was also getting the DRS, so that didn't make the life easy for the young Monegasque drivers. We're getting now the run down into turn 4. This time around it's only the second Ferrari getting the RS, but he's too far away this time around. Jumping back to Bottas is getting himself out of the pits. There's that trio that were in our tires, that Sainz, K-Mag and Raikkonen, ahead of the Mercedes, as they are going side by side into turn 1 between Bottas and Hamilton. And Hamilton, of course, has already warmed up tires, gets the outside line, does get the traction down earlier, or the power down earlier, and gets himself past his teammate. So Bottas also doesn't get the RS into turn 4. I believe that was Hamilton who got it, so not really much of a chance for Bottas to get anything done that time around. So he's going to have to stick behind his teammate for the time being. Jumping to ourselves, as we've been overtaken by most of the other drivers, and Russell as well. We are really struggling. That shows how bad we are, as we are really struggling in our traction as well, as we have a big tank slapper. We managed to keep the car under control, but Russell is going to have possibly a go at us, especially if we continue doing stuff like that. Another tank slapper coming out of turn 10. Russell does get much better traction, does get the slipstream, and the DRS is going to pull himself around the outside of turn number 11. We do maintain the inside line, and we keep our place, so we can breathe a bit easier, at least into the rundown, or at least until the rundown of turn 1. As you lose the rear, coming out of turn 12, we miss the wall, and there we have it. Russell collects our car, and there's carbon fiber everywhere. There's probably massive amounts of damage in the front wing of the young British driver, and yes, there is considerable amounts of front wing damage. Fortunately for us, we didn't get damage there. But as you can see, it's going to be a very slow corner there for Russell, and we do need to overtake him. There's a bit of contact as well, but we do need to overtake him, and we do overtake him into the pit entry, because we really needed that, especially if we got behind him. We would get not only stacked up behind him, and we also would have to wait for him to replace his front wing, so that would be very inconvenient. So we got ourselves ahead, but that might create a bit of bad blood between the drivers. Russell not really avoiding our car. There wasn't much we could have done, just lost the rear, the tires just gave up on us, and at that point we were completely sideways. We were just a passenger, and Russell just didn't even slow down, apparently, just smacked into us. So as long as it was our driving mistake to let control of the car, it's also a mistake on Russell's part to collide with us. So I don't think we are at fault for that one, as we're getting now at the start of lap 15, and it is Leclerc getting serviced by his mechanics for a new set of our tires. Vettel has undercut them by 1 lap, and as he's coming out of the pits, let's see, will Vettel keep himself ahead of the Monegasque? Let's see, as we get this wide shot, and Vettel is closing in. Is it going to be enough? Doesn't look like so, and Leclerc maintains a P1. Now we have Sainz and K-Mag coming to blows. As K-Mag has a look around the inside of the Spaniard. He is not able to get the move done though. He's going to get the DRS, but they did get both of them a compromised exit, and there is Bottas getting himself around the outside of K-Mag. Is it going to be the move done? And yes, it is! Beautiful maneuver from him as he moves up a place, and as you can see, it is Hamilton stuck behind Raikkonen and K-Mag. So very unfortunate for the Mercedes. Not only they got the undercut, and of course they were on hard tires, while the Ferraris were a bit quicker on those mediums, and on top of that they caught up with that group that was on the hard tires. So they are going to take those hard tires for about 2 laps longer, but it is very unfortunate to see the Mercedes might have shot themselves in the foot with that soft tire start of the Grand Prix, as Bottas gets himself around the inside of Sainz into turn 11, and Sainz drops a place, and we jump back to Sebastian Vettel. He's lost out a little bit. Maybe he also had to contest with that trio as he came out of the pits, and that cost him time, because he pitted ahead, he went for the undercut, and he still is behind, and by considerable margin. Is it enough to not get him DRS? No, it's not. He's going to get DRS, and you can see how quickly the German is closing in on the rear diffuser of the Monegasque. He's going to pull himself to the inside. They're going side by side into turn 1. Let's see how it goes. Usually the driver around the outside does maintain the position. Exactly, that's what the Monegasque does, even though the German is going to get DRS once again. No, it's actually not. It is Leclerc going to get into the DRS, but Sebastian Vettel does get a better exit. Apparently he's going to be last of the late breakers there into turn 4. He's going to get himself around the outside, and he does it. What a beautiful maneuver there from Sebastian Vettel to take the lead of the Bahrain Grand Prix. You get a very cool camera shot. You can see the difference in time between or in distance between the Mercedes and the Ferraris. Hamilton is still yet to get rid of Sainz ahead of him. Sainz, unfortunately for him, has had his other 2 rivals in that trio that he was originally on lose a bit of ground, battling with each other, and of course also battling with the Mercedes. Hamilton, he really needs to pick up his pace. He's really far behind his teammate, and overall he's really far behind the Ferrari, so he needs to get himself a good result if he wants to keep himself the championship lead. But let's see how it goes. He does get a better exit than the Mercedes, Let's see how it, not the Mercedes, the McLaren rather, and of course he has much fresher tires. He's going to get himself around the outside, forces Carlos Sainz onto the curb. There's not as much traction there as he's getting himself DRS, and looks like Sainz is getting himself to the pits. Yes, he does. He's going to pit at lap 17 to get rid of that set of hard tires. Raikkonen is also coming in, and there's a battle between Weber and the Red Bull. I believe that is Gasly. The Frenchman gets past the German with DRS. Not really much ceremony in that one, not really much of a chance for Weber to get anything done. He might be able to pay back the favor. No, doesn't look like so. It was already too far away. His tires are also much older, so not really much he could do there, as Raikkonen is going to come out of the pits on a brand new set of medium tires, and that is Sergio Perez right behind him. I believe Sergio Perez, yes, he has jumped Norris, so I do believe that he's 10th place, the last of the points paying positions for the Mexican driver. Jumping now to, I believe this is K-Mag, who comes into the pits. Yes, it is K-Mag coming into the pits. He gets jumped by Raikkonen, so he's going to rejoin now in P9, and it is Norris in P11 through turn 1 behind the Mexican, so he's going to be the first out of the non-point scorers at this point, as Perez of course is going to get a bit of slipstream and DRS on K-Mag, and is going to close in quite a bit. As you can see there, the distance to Norris, or from Norris to the last of the points paying position. So we might have a bit of a battle between Perez and K-Mag. As you maybe remind yourself, Perez was at one point battling ourselves for something like P15 or P16, so the fact that Perez has had a good of a drive to get himself in the top 10 is really remarkable, as we get ourselves to the last corner of lap number 18, and it is Sebastian Vettel who's already caught up to the young Monegasque. He's going to get the DRS wide open at the back of his Ferrari. He's going to pull himself to the inside just like in the previous lap, and let's see how it goes, as it is a Monegasque getting himself once again a better exit around the outside, but now it's going to be the DRS wide open at the back of the German's car. No, it's actually not, so a bit of a repeat of the previous attempt. This time around though, Vettel is not able to go around the outside to claim the lead, and it is Leclerc with the lead of the Grand Prix for the time being, as K-Mag got himself a bit further away from Perez, so maybe a bit of a mistake from Perez, as K-Mag is really close to Kimi Raikkonen's rear end. Let's see, he's going to get himself on the inside. There's a mistake from Raikkonen, and K-Mag just moves up to P8, says thank you very much, and takes the position. A mistake there in the under braking from the Alfa Romeo driver, unfortunately, and is going to get demoted down to a P9. I do believe K-Mag also has one lap fresher tires, so that might also make a difference if Raikkonen wants to hunt down the Haas driver. Let's see how it goes in the laps to come though, as if he's going to get the DRS now, but not really close enough to overtake into lap number 11, so we have 9 laps to go to the end of this Bahrain Grand Prix, and now we're going to have Vettel going down the inside of the last corner. A bit of a lockup there from Leclerc, and I do believe this is exactly what the Mercedes wants. They want the Ferraris to battle each other. They want the Ferraris to lose time battling each other so they can close in. As you can see, Vettel now with the usage of the DRS just sailing past Leclerc and into turn number 1. Even before the braking zone, he was already away with it, and he is taken back the lead of the Grand Prix as we get ourselves on the rundown into turn 4. Leclerc does get the DRS this time around. Nonetheless, it is not enough to attempt an overtaking maneuver on Sebastian Vettel. As you can see now, very good camera shot, and the Mercedes have closed in, or at least Bottas has closed in on the Ferraris in the last couple laps. Lewis Hamilton pretty far away. I do believe the Ferraris are closer to Bottas than Bottas is to Hamilton, so maybe Bottas could start getting involved with those two, and if they don't lose too much time scrapping each other, maybe those three could pull away from Hamilton. But of course Hamilton really needs to pick up his pace, really needs to dig deep and get the best of his talent to keep up with the trio that's leading the Grand Prix. It isn't really looking like it. He got beat by Bottas in the qualifying by almost 4/10, so he's really just a notch below Bottas in performance this time around. Bottas also overtook him in pure racing, he overtook him on track after the round of pit stops. That's why once they caught up to that group of Raikkonen and K-Mag, Bottas was ahead of them. So we are going to start now lap number 22, and it is Charles Leclerc hunting down Vettel. Is he going to be close enough for a maneuver? No, he's not going to be close enough this time around, but he might be close enough for something into turn number 4. Let's see who does get the better exit. It does look like Vettel did get the better exit out of the two. It's going to be the DRS wide open at the back of the Ferrari though, and nonetheless not enough for an overtaking maneuver just yet into turn number 4. Going to take a look now further back, as it is Perez going to hunt down K-Mag. K-Mag has lost a bit of ground to Kimi Raikkonen, and it doesn't have the right to DRS anymore, so easy maneuver for Perez. Even before the braking zone of turn 1, he is already ahead, and also Norris has been able to keep up with them or close in, and he is also getting DRS from Kevin Magnussen. Of course, Kevin Magnussen does have DRS this time around. It looks like he actually got a better exit out of turn 3. Maybe the Ferrari power unit is a bit more powerful than the Renault one that is on the back of these McLaren. As he jumped now to the beginning of lap number 23, and it is Charles Leclerc hunting down Vettel. You can see how close, or the closing speed, how big it was. Nonetheless, it wasn't enough for the Monegasque to clear his teammate in the braking zone. So they're going side by side. There's also a side-by-side moment between Hamilton and Bottas, but I do believe Bottas got the upper hand on that instance, as Vettel is going to get himself around the outside, and what a beautiful maneuver there. Once again, he's making it work. That outside maneuver into turn number 4, he's making it work, and he retakes the lead of the Bahrain Grand Prix as Bottas. Yes, you can see it is Bottas in P3. That really didn't help, that squabble for position between the Mercedes as well. As you can see, they are getting once again feisty, the Ferraris, as it is the Monegasque getting himself on the inside of his teammate. And is he going to get DRS? Yes, he does get DRS. He's much closer than before. Is he going to give back the favor to Vettel? He's going to get himself around the outside. Can he make it work as well? And it looks like yes, he does. Beautiful maneuver from the Monegasque, just showing to Vettel, I can do that as well. And he now takes the lead of these Grand Prix. So you look further back, this is Weber now, who has caught up with what is now a quartet, battling for either P10 or P11, I'm not exactly sure. And it is K-Mag, yes, they are battling for P10, I believe, as K-Mag is getting himself alongside Norris. Now he's going to have the outside approach to turn number 1, let's see. And a bit of a lift off from the power there from K-Mag as he came out of turn 2 and into turn 3. Does still get a run on the McLaren though, and Weber isn't able to pull the trigger on the Danish car, and is going to maintain himself on the position right behind that group. As we now jump to the beginning of lap 27, Bottas is going to get DRS on the Ferraris, and it looks like he's also pulled away a little bit from Hamilton, as Vettel is going to sail past Leclerc and overtake him once again without much issue. So we have about 3 laps to go to the end of this Bahrain Grand Prix, and we're going right down to the wire, ladies and gentlemen. You can see there is Russell. Also, he has had a forgettable race as well, especially after the collision with ourselves. He lost a lot of time getting stuck behind us in the pit lane, and then the time he lost replacing the front wing, and it's generally an uncompetitive car, that Williams, so it might also play a role as we get to the last laps. Go on to the camera, or the helmet camera of Bottas. As you can see, is only on 4% ERS, as you have another run from Leclerc at Vettel. And as you can see there, if Bottas had a bit more of ERS to push, he could have gotten himself alongside Vettel. He didn't have enough to get himself there though. He's still closing in on Vettel as he gets DRS out of turn number 4 or 3, but he's not really going to pull the trigger on it. He's going to settle himself down in P3 for the time being. Vettel lost a bit of ground to Charles Leclerc, as you can see there, and this could be the gap that the Monegasque leads or needs to take the win. Let's see how it goes. Hamilton a couple car lengths behind Bottas, so he's not really in the battle for any of the podium paying positions unless there is someone going side by side that loses a tremendous amount of time, as we get ourselves now through the second DRS zone, and as you can see it's not really closing in on Bottas. And in terms of the ERS, if you guys have been paying attention, Bottas has less ERS than Hamilton, Vettel and Charles Leclerc. As we get now out of turn number 13, and Russell might help Charles Leclerc. Let's see how it goes, because Leclerc might get DRS from Russell. Looks like he's a bit far away, but let's see how that one goes. Vettel is getting DRS on the Monegasque as well, getting into the last corner. Let's see, it's going to start now the last lap of this Bahrain Grand Prix, and no, Charles Leclerc doesn't get DRS. Vettel is going to close in very fast, and let's see, they're already side by side. Will Leclerc be able to retaliate? No, he's not. Even before the braking zone, there is the Monegasque getting down 2p2. Vettel takes the lead of the Grand Prix, and Russell might end up helping Vettel as Vettel, yes, Vettel does get to the DRS coming out of turn number 3, and this is really going to make the life more difficult for the youngster of the Ferrari if he wants to take the win, as after turn number 4 Russell just gets out of everyone's way and doesn't really bother anyone in the top 4, getting now downhill into turn number 8, and Hamilton has gotten closer but doesn't look like he's in a position to get himself in the podium paying positions. The cars are evenly apart from each other, so I don't see any battling or occurring, at least up until the exit of turn 13, or maybe even on the run out of a lap of turn number 15. Vettel goes defensive into turn number 11. There is maybe a possibility for Charles Leclerc. He carries more speed on the uphill through turns 11 and 12. Let's see how it goes into lap number 13. He's not close enough to make a dive bomb on his teammate, but now he's certainly going to get a bit of slipstream on the run up to turn number 14 and 15. Let's see how it goes. 100 meters away from the corner, Vettel goes defensive once again. Will Charles Leclerc get a better exit? Let's see how it goes. Doesn't look like so. The DRS is going to be open, but it's not enough. Sebastian Vettel takes home the win of the Bahrain Grand Prix. That was right down to the last lap, and Sebastian Vettel takes home the win. The Ferrari answer with the 1-2 of their round after the 1-2 of the Mercedes at Albert Park, as Bottas completes the podium with a very nice third place as well.
Well, what a drive that was to take the win for Ferrari today. Anthony Davidson, what helped them deliver this result, do you think?
Well, time management probably played quite a large role in the outcome of this one. As ever, it's not just about speed, it's all about maintaining that speed consistently over a stint, over a race distance. So being able to keep up the lap times while still being smooth on the controls and gentle on the tyres, that's really where the race was won today.
Ferrari are at it again, an excellent performance at today's Grand Prix, and they're certainly a team that know what they're doing out there.
And there you have it, Sebastian Vettel strikes again. He lifts up the trophy as he takes home the win of this Bahrain Grand Prix. In 2014 we had a battle between the Mercedes. This time around we had a battle between the Ferraris. Very nicely done. Vettel did get out on top at the end of it, but a masterclass on the strategy from the Ferrari drivers as well. So going to jump to the results. You can see 1-2 for Ferrari, then 3-4 for the Mercedes, 5-6 for the Red Bulls, as McLaren is best of the rest, so he gets the 6 points from 7th place. Kimi Raikkonen in 8th, Sergio Perez 14th to 9th, and Lando Norris completes the top 10. As you can see, Lucas Weber also 17th to P12, so both Perez and Weber getting very good performances. We get ourselves 18th, so we beat Russell. We also got our target or finishing 19th place, and Romain Grosjean he DNF'd in about lap 9 if I do remember correctly. I do believe, if I saw that correctly, Vettel takes the lead of the championship and Mercedes still leads Ferrari by a single point in the championship. There's also the Red Bull team jumping past the Alfa Romeo 4P3 in the championship. So getting now back to our motorhome, as you can see, we beat our teammate, so we're going to continue leading the rivalry by 4 points now, 11-7. In terms of our resource points, we are going to get a couple for our performance, but the biggest thing will be the team goal, because we accomplished that at Albert Park, if you guys recall. So we get over 1800 points and that's really a big boost for us. And let's see how we are going to spend it, as we're going to get ourselves back into our workstation.
Great work. That's exactly the kind of result.
Well, I mean, it isn't really the kind of result I'm looking for, but I mean, in terms of the objectives for the team, we actually beat. As you can see, their expected race position 19th, so we got that one at least, but that's why Emma is happy, but we should have done much better than that. We are still very far behind in development though. But we're going to take a look at aerodynamics. We have 1800 points, and we're going to get that second department efficiency upgrade, and we are going to get that one. We're going to get to 666 points, and as you can see, we have already scraped off 100 resource points per part on those minor upgrades. We're going to get the minor front wing upgrade for China as well, and as we take a look at the chassis, we are also far behind the pack, not as far behind as in the aerodynamics though, so we are going to keep on working on the aerodynamics for the time being, and then we might switch our developments to the chassis at some point later on. So this is it for today, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give me a like button. If you did not, the dislike button is as always right beside it. Subscribe if you'd like to see more. Hit the bell icon for any notifications of whenever we are about to start a live stream or to post a video. Hope to see you guys next time, and have a wonderful day. Goodbye.